Welcome to 519 Connect, where the Windsor Police Service connects with members of our community. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. Welcome to 519 Connect. I'm your host, Constable Adjetey-Nelson, Diversity Officer for the Windsor Police. And today we have guest co-host, Sergeant Angie Drouillard from the Community Service Branch. And today we have a special guest. We have Bob Cameron. Bob, welcome.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, so a little bit about Bob. Bob Cameron is the Executive Director of the DWCC Downtown Windsor Community Collaborative and the REACT Recovery from Trauma program. REACT is recovery education for addictions and complex trauma. Bob and Margot, that your wife?
Yes.
Your wife moved home to Windsor to participate with a group committed to seeing a downtown as a good place to grow up and a good place to grow old. So we are excited to talk to you today about downtown, the city, what you're doing, and what we see for the future.
Yeah, no, and I just wanted to sit in because Bob's a friend of mine, a neighbor close by, and I'm definitely interested in the issues that are facing downtown. Yeah. So the good things that are happening.
Yeah. So before we get there, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
40 years ago, the wilderness adventure that you had for 2 weeks out in the wilderness kind of reminds me of Bears Grylls. Like you're out there doing, stuff that I'm not ready for.
40 years ago, I would not have realized how significant that plays a role in almost in everyday things. So it was a wilderness experience of 2 weeks of just heading off. The first thing we did when we got to the camp is they took away all the phones, all the technology, and stripped our backpacks down to about a third of the size of what we thought, and then sent us out for hiking, canoeing, rock climbing, mountain climbing. And it all ended at the 2 weeks with a half marathon. And prior to that, 3 days of fasting on Lake Superior, just being all alone. And a profound experience both internally and physically of just stretching one to realize what one can do that one thought one couldn't do. And phrased as I lost like 20 pounds in 2 weeks, and I've never been in a better shape at the end of it. But one of the leaders saying to us, hey, you can respond to adversity by either quitting or coping or thriving, and you choose which one you want to do. And that motto or axiom has stuck with me. When you hit adversity, what's my choice? I choose to thrive in the situation.
Wow, that's an amazing experience. And how did you come about it?
I've always enjoyed the wilderness. Did hiking when I was younger in high school, camping experience, and trying to do it in the minimalist way. And then I came across it somewhere, Vanguard and a couple of different spaces, and then just found the spot out of Chicago that runs the program. Signed up and headed off for it. Kind of oblivious to what I was getting into, but grateful for it.
Yeah, man of adventure. That does sound. That sounds just the preparation, or getting there, and it's just like, wow, this is what I signed up for. But you said that the instructor said you can thrive. How are you going to respond? And like you said, that is life, really.
Yes. We think life's going to be good, but life always has difficulties and adversities that hit us. Some that you can plan, or you can't plan. Some that are given to you. And again, what's my response?
I'll think about it.
Yes.
The whole marathon thing. I'm a sprinter. I'm speed, and that's it. No long runs for me.
Yeah, no, I never even knew this about you, Bob, that you had this adventure back then. But it doesn't surprise me knowing you and your energy that you bring to downtown and helping the downtown area with the different organizations you're involved in. Mm-hmm. So can you elaborate on what the Downtown Community Collaborative does, what the REACT program does?
Yeah. So REACT is something that's responded out of COVID. And Downtown Windsor Community Collaborative, the objective is to bring people out of isolation into relationship. So the person I'm suspicious of actually could probably be a friend. And as I get to know them, I can discern through interaction, running into them on the street or in the park, realize, this has potential to be a good acquaintance or a friend. And so our goal over the last 10, 12 years has been to move people out of that isolation, alienation into a relationship. And we realize as we find that isolation, alienation is an aggravation of addictions and mental illness. So there's a healing component that goes through that. So a lot of the activities DWCC has done has been throw a good party, like just enjoy your neighbors. But what we found with COVID was all that had to stop. We could not bring people physically together. And so we're thinking, what's our role? How do we continue to make downtown a good place to grow up, good place to grow old? And we realized that a lot of folks, friendship just wasn't enough, or the woundedness they had, being a good friend, they didn't have a capacity for it. And so we thought, what is the deeper issue going on? And realized addictions, mental illness, homelessness, a consequence of those two things, are rooted in a deeper problem, which is a deep, deep pain that we're finding now through trauma, complex trauma, experienced in childhood, wires our brain to learn how to cope because I wasn't taught the thriving skills in adversity. And so we thought, let's not address addictions, let's address the trauma that's driving these as the symptom, or the only solution someone has to the deep pain they have is to use, and or it causes mental illness. So we launched the REACT program about 2 years ago in the midst of the COVID, because we actually got a grant from the United Way to help us take it online. And so folks could participate in a 12-week outpatient program and address the trauma and connect the dots in the story. Well, this is why I do now because of what happened to me when I was younger. And I got a lousy deck or a hand dealt to me, and it's my responsibility to clean it up now. So that's what the program does. And we've had an overwhelming response for that. The percentage of folks who can find healing and well-being is really high. And we've had about 450 people apply over the last 20 months and about 250 people enter into the program. Originally, we thought it would be just for the downtown area, but we've had folks from Barrie, Toronto area, Hamilton, and we've kind of had to say no to that because what we realized, okay, we're about bringing people into relationship. If they live in Windsor-Essex County, we have an opportunity of being physically present and staying connected with them. If I deal with my troubles, it gives me, we say it's kind of like I'm learning how to ride a new bike. And at the end of 12 weeks, I'm still wobbly on it, and I need the additional supports to help me become good at riding the bike, learning new ways of dealing with adversity. So that's taken off. And then we've been able now, as we're coming out of the COVID pandemic, into a new phase of how do we come back together again. And so we've had we overwhelmed you, I think, 4 weeks ago on our Taco Tuesday or Potluck Tuesday in Bruce Park.
Yeah, okay. You sent out the invitation, and then when I came there, I was like, Bob, I didn't realize you had 100 kids, 150 kids here at Bruce Park. This is definitely a success story that you're building there. Yeah,
it's we saw the kids gathering, and then we started gathering the core community of DWCC, which are largely as neighbors in the area that have a spirituality that sustains us. And we started just having supper there, and the kids would start going, what's going on here? How do I get in on this? And then I think kids started going home, and I had supper at the park, and parents quite rightfully saying, who's feeding you? So they started coming over, and so folks just bring stuff now. We just kind of try to do potluck of neighbors getting together and just relaxing. Dougal School brings Miss Chris, who'd be great to interview, volleyball fanatic. She brings the volleyball nets over. Windsor women working with immigrant women, brought a drum circle last night or a couple nights ago. And so a variety of things happening, just neighbors getting together and saying, hey, this is a safe place. Just changes the kind of the narrative of what downtown is like. So I went to a doctor's appointment, and every time I go to his appointment, he just wants to talk about the bad stuff of downtown. So there's good stuff happening here. I don't want to talk about bad things all the time. There's real positive stuff happening downtown.
Yeah, no, you're right, because I think a lot of people have seen the slow deterioration downtown with homelessness, drug addiction, right? Even me, from patrol over a 5 to 10 year period, just seeing that go downhill, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people looked at it like, I don't know, what can we do? So that's what I really applaud your group in doing, where you're actually, taking it head on and looking at it and trying to find a solution to help people improve and get better.
Yeah. So when we started 12 years ago, one of the objectives was experiments. There's the old way of doing things. We just can't work harder and faster at it. We have to think and imagine new ways of engaging and, in a sense, grassroots experiments. At the street level, what does it look like? What do we learn maybe of what we imagined it was like 50, 75 years ago of being a good neighbor? And just trying a lot of different, we call mustard seed things, just small things planted and see what happens. Some of them work, some of them don't. That's okay. It's an experiment. We learn and try some new things.
Yeah, the reflection back on those things you try. Sometimes we don't want to look at it as a failure, but like you said, try something else. That inquiry, asking those questions. What can we do next? And you talk about everything blossoming. Like you said, people once you went online, all over, Ontario's reaching out. Mm-hmm. How did you support those people? Because I imagine it didn't just stop there. There was not just a no. It's like, okay, a lot of this sounds like collaboration. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the origin of REACT, the recovery program, is in Winnipeg, and they do an online one for folks actually around the world. And so we just refer folks to that and say, hey, I don't think this is a great spot for you here in Windsor if you're out of town, but here's an avenue to go. So it's never a shut door. It's always trying to provide a creative alternative for folks.
Yeah, I'd imagine that program brought people to Windsor. When you see something like that happen, it's like, that's a great place. I want to be here.
Funny you should say that. There's about, I could probably name 8 to 10 folks who have moved in the last year and a half to Windsor and connected partially to DWCC and REACT, wanting to be a part of it. Or the founder used to work here in Windsor back for Chrysler about 30 years ago. And so they, in a sense, semi-retired here to downtown. And we always tell that when we're telling the story. This weekend we're going back up to Mississauga, visit old friends, and they say, well, what can we do to help? I said, well, move downtown. Start with the big.
Yeah, and that's you got to sell the community. And I think we were talking about before, like there's different parts of Windsor, and there's the great things you learn about. I'm still learning, like learning about you and your programs. When I mentioned your name, everyone's like, oh, Bob, I know him. And it's just like, oh, okay. And, you hear about the things that you've done in the community, like you said, for the last decade. And I thought you were from Toronto, but you're like, no, I worked my way home. Talk about that when you were away and the feeling you had to want to come back to Windsor.
I think the entrepreneurial spirit took my wife and I up to Mississauga, Oakville area to, open the family businesses in the Toronto area. But it was all like, I think we were home every month or every 6 weeks. We were driving down the highway and coming home to see family and just enjoying Windsor. And just, it is a gem that somehow the country ends at London.
Oh, yeah.
Folks don't realize that. We have this inferiority complex we should not have. But family, the city, all those things called us back. And we had 4 daughters that were at the age of saying, hey, they're growing up without family, extended family, grandparents. We need to move home. That was another key reason. So they could be present with wonderful grandparents. And so they all came with us. We negotiated what they were going to get to move from friends and family or friends in the Mississauga area and moved down. And it's been 12 amazing years.
Yeah, little did they know that you even grew the family that much more when you came here with the
Yes.
downtown
Yes.
the community collaborative. Like you said, community, it becomes like family because that relationship is grown through asking questions, supporting. Is there any other? I'm sure you work with a lot of different organizations to help bolster downtown and how it can work in other aspects.
Yeah. So our kind of ethos for that is our vision is downtown being a good place to grow up and good place to grow old. And whoever else wants that same vision, hey, how do we work together? So W5, YMCA, I'm going to forget them all. The farmers market, the BIA, police, the mission, formerly AIDS Committee of Windsor, Positive Pathway, the health unit, just whoever has the same thing and overlapping. Let's not compete. Let's collaborate.
Yeah.
There's limited resources, and we all have really ultimately the same kind of dream. So let's work together whatever way we can.
Yeah, I always say with limited resources, the one thing that's even the most important thing is, giving your time. That's a big thing. because we could always ask for more weather services, but being able to dedicate time, as you can see, is probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah. So to build on that is we limit our geography. So we have embraced the old religious model of a parish, a physical space. And so we've got 4 square kilometers that are downtown Howard to Caron Avenue, the railroad tracks, Giles to the river. That's 16,000 people. So there's 16,000 friends I got to get to know. Mm-hmm. And I can do that by walking. It's a walkable neighborhood. Shop as much as possible, eat, great places to eat, entertainment, and so on. So you can overlap your relationships, so time doesn't require me to spend an hour driving somewhere, which we had to do in Mississauga. We're just going to walk down the street or bike down and run into people accidentally and just continue to build those relationships.
Hi, my name is Ed Armstrong. I'm the Inspector of Professional Advancement with the Windsor Police Service. With this position, I oversee our training branch, community services, as well as recruitment. As you know, Windsor is one of the most diverse communities in Canada. With that being said, our goal is to ensure that our police service represents our community. If you know anyone from your community that believes in our core values and will be an asset to our organization and serve the community with honor and service, the Windsor Police Service is currently accepting applications for the position of cadet. We encourage you to have them apply. Although patrol and ensuring the safety of our community is our #1 priority, the Windsor Police Service offers different departments that may interest you. To name a few, our Major Crimes Branch, our Forensic Identification Unit, Emergency Services Unit, and our Marine Unit. Which one interests you? So you want to know how to become a cadet? Simply visit our website at windsorpolice.ca under the Career tab, or visit oacpcertificate.ca. I'm sitting at my desk waiting to see your application.
Well, one of the things that was impressive is the diverse group that you had at Bruce Park there.
Yeah.
I was talking to Syrian refugees that were recently down after a few years, kids from different backgrounds. So that's definitely a success story, bringing such a diverse community together in Bruce Park.
Yeah. I talk about collaboration. Dougal Elementary School and Immaculate Conception are we realize how critical a couple factors are structurally in a neighborhood. One is the elementary schools and parks. And because it's so tightly compacted, they overlap. So Bruce Park is Dougal Elementary School. It's their playground, really. And we've seen the immigration waves come through Dougal School, the Syrian, the Burmese, the Chinese, Cambodian kids, and now then the Syrian kids, and now we're kind of anticipating who's going to be next. And they kind of hit the school first. And so proud and impressed with the teachers there and the principals and the support staff who love those kids and love that neighborhood. And, a family that comes with 6, 8 kids, 10 kids, if I was a parent, I'd be kicking them out to the park.
Yeah.
So they're always playing in the park and engaging them. And just realizing when it comes to diversity issues, kids from a European background are a significant minority at Dougal School, and they do a great job. It's a wonderful place. Yeah. And Bruce Park becomes kind of that melting pot as well, that mosaic right there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And besides the potluck, can you just, some of the other things you've done, I've seen you, help a neighbor fix up their property. You've done a lot of other initiatives through the Downtown Community Collaborative. Can you elaborate on a couple of those too?
Yeah, I think it's kind of responding to what are the needs. And as you get to know the needs of your neighbors and their gifts, how do we build on those too? So I think the one that comes to mind was Little Things Matter. Folks, when prices were depressed and landlords did not want to invest in their houses because there's no return on it. Equity doesn't get built. So we said, well, what if we partner with you. We won't do it for you. We'll do it with you. And we'll put some money in, you match it, and we'll work on the exterior of your house. And we'll try and get volunteers in the neighborhood. So we're not hiring, we're helping our neighbor. So fixing porches, painting, sidewalks rebuilt. Little things do make a difference, because when I paint my house, my neighbor kind of has to feel I got to paint mine too. And so the anticipation was building a spin-off. And that was a really neat project we did for a couple of years. Ran its course. Again, it was a mustard seed idea, and we were really trying to get the city to kind of spark the imagination. This should happen in every neighborhood. This shouldn't just be a downtown situation. So I think they have picked it up until COVID hit. So those little things matter. We would do Spruce the Bruce, pick one of those big containers and have it dropped off, and everybody can just bring their junk. At the time, the city wasn't picking up, couches and so on. So folks would just dump them in the alley because they had nowhere. I don't have a van. I can't get it to the dump. So I'm going to dump it wherever I can. And so let's get the bin once a year, and everybody can just throw their junk in it, and we'll clean up the neighborhood. We'll say we're proud of it. We love it. This is our home. This is a safe place. We're going to fight against the tendency for it to deteriorate. And now we don't have to do that anymore, because we spruced it up. Neighbors keep it clean now, and it kind of, just the attitude has changed. I wouldn't say it's just because of us, but I hope we played a part in changing that.
Oh yeah, no, I and I only say that is it's because I think there's other neighborhoods that have that same issue. A rental property, the issue with the alley. And so there are solutions out there, right? If you team up and come together as a community.
Yeah, the worst thing we can do is insulate and move in. We got to fight. We got to fight in a constructive way of saying, hey, and part of that fighting is, what's the vision I can cast? You should just clean up. You should cut your lawn. Hey, what's the vision I can? Hey, our neighborhood would look great if you cut your lawn. We'd all like it a lot better. And try to change the tack. And the other one that was neat at Bruce Park was kind of responding to the need. A Syrian family moved in next door to us and couldn't speak English, and so we set up a badminton net on the front lawn. I don't know if you remember that. And the kids started coming over, and we tried to figure out how to talk, cross languages. And the dad came over, figured it out. And then, they really didn't like badminton. They want to play soccer. So we said, okay, let's meet at Bruce Park, and kids walked by, come on, play soccer. And so we eventually had 30 plus kids, boys, girls, all ages. Parents started playing just the way it should happen. Very unstructured, very relaxed. And Mahmoud joined me, and Mahmoud, I found out, played for the Jordanian national soccer team like 60 years ago.
Wow.
And loves the neighborhood, and the two of us would just show up Sunday nights, and the kids would come, and then COVID kind of killed that. But now we see the kids still come by. They were there Tuesday night at Potluck Tuesday, and they're now like 2 feet taller, and deep voices, beards, but still remember Mr. Bob and Mac.
Creating those opportunities to let that happen, to learn about people, and it enriches that connection.
Yes, and just breaking down the barriers. So, what structures do we create that we need to remove, and try some new things that bring people together?
Yeah. No, it just touches on that leap you got to take to gain those great conversations and learn about great people that are in our community, right? Like it's,
incredibly gifted that you wouldn't know until you start talking. Instead of thinking about the deficit, thinking, what imaginative gifts and crazy things do you have that, and it's called asset-based community development. It comes out of Northwestern University. John McKnight says, if I had a magic wand, or if you had a magic wand, what would you change about your neighborhood? And then my second question is, well, if we found someone else, would you do it together? And so bringing the giftedness out of a neighborhood and bring it together to see them enact it, again, instead of me doing it, which is very limited in my limited gifts. But the neighborhood's full of it, and the solutions exist in the neighborhood already.
It's just working together to, harness those things that are out there to make it a success.
Yeah, there's nothing you can really do by yourself. I see you talking about the grass, and sometimes people don't think cutting your grass is a thing, but it's showing them and showing that care, setting the bar, and like on a team, you're creating that culture, and once everyone's bought in, it's a lot easier, and it just starts happening on its own.
Yeah, now you can come down and tell me because I need to cut my grass.
He's going to come and help you.
Yeah,
there it is.
There you go. Yeah.
Your lawnmower.
No, Bob, again, I really appreciate everything that you do in the downtown area. Like you said, the React program, you adapted, you went on Zoom, but I see you often, like you're at a coffee shop meeting with these people that you're working with. Like, can you talk a little bit about that? Like you take a lot of time out to invest in these people to help get them on the right track.
Yeah. Partially because we've chosen intentionally to resist getting a physical space of our own, although hopefully that changes it a bit. We realize we need it, that there are good spaces to meet and investment of our resources in people and activities rather than in building structures. Those exist already, and we can use them. And one of them is a coffee shop. So our office is, March 21 Cafe, Coffee Exchange. We love those two places. And we meet, and it integrates folks. So instead of me meeting someone in an office and it's one-on-one or a small group, we're actually interacting and learning how to interact with the neighborhood around. Someone's a stranger till I see them a few times. They're familiar. I recognize you. To what's your name? What's your dog's name? And then it just kind of knits together a community. So we'll meet one-on-one. Some folks at some point realize I can trust you. So especially someone deeply wounded has built coping mechanisms of mistrust. So I don't want to be hurt again. And as they enter into safe spaces, they can, in a sense, put deposits into the bank of trust. And I'm willing to risk a little with Bob or Kristen or Alex or others of the team to say, hey, I want to kind of open up a bit of my soul and share what's going on. And that point of one-on-one helps give guidance for folks there's a compassionate listening ear, a little bit of advice, and then allow people to take the steps they need to for well-being.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
no, because we did the presentation on unconscious bias and different things that people face, stereotypes, things we see in the media. So, sometimes, we hear them being called names or just kind of just putting people down in the downtown core that have addictions and not really understanding that it comes from trauma that they've faced, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff in there to unpack, and it's a lot of stuff to recover from and to get over. It's like you can't just get over it, right? So can you talk a little bit about that, like how you, like I saw you on Positive Pathways there, just kind of trying to rewrite that narrative to try to give people in the community open their eyes a bit towards maybe looking at them as people and looking at them as trauma victims. Yeah.
Couple thoughts. One, I think it's Dr. Gabor Mate and Bruce Perry and Oprah have just mentioned it's changing the question really changes their whole perspective. So instead of saying what's wrong with you, a war on drugs, which is a violent response and creates an adversarial relationship, change the question to what happened to you. Yes. Like, what is the engine that's driving it? That to do the things you don't want to do. And I think if we talk to most addicts on the street or folks that are homeless, they don't want to be there. Just the coping mechanisms, what we're understanding about complex trauma is just created an environment that I don't know how. I wish I could, but my brain is wired a certain way. The beauty is our brains are plastic. They can be rewired. And so when folks find some healing in conversations with guys working through the React, and as they understand this idea of trauma and its connection, and they kind of connect the dots, he says, it's like you're putting the pieces of the puzzle of my life together, and now it makes sense. And it opened up the door to change. I now know why. Now I can change this. The other one was just a conversation with folks doing a walkabout yesterday with three persons that want to be involved. And, what's my response? I just don't want to be on the outside looking in and judging, say, how can I invest myself in my naivety and innocence to care for folks? And so we do a walkabout, and we spend a couple hours walking around downtown meeting folks and say, well, what do I do when I meet someone? Say, well, if it's a panhandler, do I give them money? I say, well, really what they need to know is ask them their name. Okay? We can give hope and dignity more so. And if you feel called to give them $5, give them $5. I mean, it's honor them and have an exchange. Learn this. How have you landed here? Like, what are you hoping for? And enter into conversation and treat people with dignity and understand gain empathy, understanding their story that goes with it. Doesn't excuse, but it does. Empathy is a really critical factor for moving forward, for engaging folks. So because they're my neighbors, they just are no fixed address, I want to know their story. I want them to know me. A friendship develop out of it that can happen. And so that changes a whole different way I see folks from being the other, them becomes, hey, that's my neighbor. He's going through a real rough patch for the last 20 years, but doesn't mean that he's going to be there next week, next year.
Well, it's kind of like us in the job, like as patrol officers, even just us when you meet someone, that impact you have on how you treat them, teaching with respect. They are a person and there's a story behind that person. And I always say, don't be in a rush. I feel sometimes, there's nothing wrong with giving that panhandler money. Talk to them, give them that time, because they might have those, preconceived thoughts about you, just who you are. And like you said, it's breaking those barriers. I'm not what you think I am, and you're not what I thought you were. And you gain so much there because in this job, a lot of times we see these same people over and over again. And when you build that relationship, it's not saying it's easier to help, but when you can offer some supports, it's genuine because you have that connection, and it's little connections you keep doing.
Yeah. And I suppose I would suspect they accept your authority or your directive differently when they know they're known, and it's just not a negative connotation. There's some type of relationship there.
We talked about it. Policing's changed. What it used to be. It's not just about the criminal code or things like that. It's support. It's services, and when we know about programs like yours and we can talk to it, it really helps us because we have this relationship, and when they see oh you have that relationship, Bob, all right, and then it kind of sometimes that validates, okay, like you said, that was it the trust trust opens up, and they're just like, all right, you're putting a little bit in the bank, and you're putting a little bank because we're not just out there to lock up people. It's like, you're homeless, whatever, how can I help? I might not live downtown, but you are my community. Community's a broad term, but I want to see you do well, this community do well, and there's a story there.
So true.
Well, no, thanks, Bob. I mean, we've touched on a lot of the issues that we've wanted to talk on. You feel like there's anything we're missing? Yeah, we've got here your cherry tree. That is a huge success in the neighborhood. I know you get a lot of kids that are coming out to your home, to your cherry tree. I think that little vision of a cherry tree and community coming there and leaving with food and cherries and just the interaction and the joy they'll have together, it speaks a lot of stuff that you do overall in the downtown neighborhood. Yeah.
Yesterday I was cleaning up the driveway, and this guy across the street's walking by and looking a little rough, and he says, "Hey, you got that Swiss chard again this year?" And I'm thinking, what's he talking about? And last year I grew too much Swiss chard, don't like it, and I gave it to him, and then he walked into the apartment building across the street, and I go, "Oh, you're my neighbor," and so absolutely come on over and get it whenever it's ready. And then there was a family that came over the cherry tree. Margot said, the dad's up at the very top, and they were like cleaning the tree out, 4 or 5 kids, and they're taking that home because they need it, and not just because they like sweet cherries. So it's like, can I open up my space? My fence is not not creating a moat. How do I be willing to open up as much as possible? Because that just creates a different environment in the neighborhood. So.
And more positive interactions and relationships like we're talking about, right? Just opening yourself up to the possibility of a good relationship. There's so many out there. That's
true, but way more than we realize.
Yeah.
You get pride in your community. You take care of each other, like you said. That whole, like, not a moat, it's a fence, and people are sometimes worried and they close off themselves to stay protected. But as a community, there's nothing like you go away for a vacation and your community is going to take care of your home. You're going to take care of them. It's just that feeling, and I'm sure, and I know, your community is happy to have you there, not to run things, but involve them.
Yeah, I hope we can do that, and it's a joy when somebody comes up and says, hey, I got this idea. Excellent. Okay, it's working.
Yeah, because like you said, even at the community service, it's like, well, let's try that idea. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We'll try something else. But so many people are afraid to try ideas because they might fail, right? It's like, let's try it.
And there's some self healing in that, in the sense, okay, if something fails, it doesn't mean I failed. It means the idea didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, so what did we learn from it? What's the iteration? What can we grow from it? We had that with our men's house. We had we had 3 young guys, probably average age of 20 at the time, who moved into a house downtown and lived in it, made space for guys coming off the streets. And so over the 6 years they did that, there were over 50 men that came in and lived in the house, kind of transitioned off. And some made it, some didn't. You know, they had their car stolen, a couple laptops stolen. So these guys really risked it. Very proud of them. We tried to do that in a women's house. Okay, so this worked. It was downtown. I wouldn't say it was a disaster, but it was exponentially more challenges than with the men's house. We said, well, let's mothball it. We can't. This one didn't work. We tried a recovery house with 5 guys who were in active addiction to support each other through practices and stable living. And that worked for a year, and it was a partnership with St. Andrew's Church downtown. We couldn't have done it without them. So again, a collaboration. And but after a year, so this isn't, this does not have to go on. We can close this off. And then out of it ultimately came the REACT program. So you try something, doesn't work, that's okay. Something good will come out of it.
Yeah, you're gonna get there. But thank you. I learned a lot today. Especially this potluck in Bruce Park. It's a beautiful park. Every time I would go by there, it's like you said, it's rich with diversity kids and everything. And I'm glad to see that there's continued, participation from the community, and as it grows. And now I know the dimensions of where you guys reside, and your community appreciates you, but at Windsor Police we appreciate it. Thanks. Because it's a collaboration. We want to be there, and we want to be the support. We don't want to be the driving sense of that, keeping that community safe. A safe community is a community that's providing and nourishing themselves, and I think you have a great framework there to continue that. So we appreciate you. I know your community appreciates you, and thank you for coming on our show today.
Can I give a plug for our golf tournament?
Oh,
hey, for sure.
What's to come? Yeah.
So July 16th, we're trying our first, hopefully it's an annual event, Drive to Thrive classic golf tournament. It's we provide the REACT program for free. We try to remove that barrier. So we do sportive events like the golf tournament to provide the funding for REACT. And so July 16th out at the old Fox Glen, has a new name now, but if folks go to reactwindsor.ca. They can find the details for signing up and having a fun day of golf. July 16th.
July 16th. What's your website again?
reactwindsor.ca.
All right. Go to reactwindsor.ca for all you golfers out there, or even organizations that's learning about REACT for the first time, and you want to reach out and sponsor this great program happening here in the city of Windsor. So, Andy.
Hey, I wanted to jump out from behind the cameras, because usually I'm behind the cameras, because I know Bob had a lot to bring here about the excitement that's going on downtown. Yeah. So I wanted to be a part of it. So thanks for having me, Jamie. Bob. Little third wheel here.
Yeah, so that's 519 Connect. Great episode with Bob Cameron from the DWCC, the Downtown Windsor Collaborative, Community Collaborative. You can find us on all your platforms, Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. So thank you again, 519 Connect. Let's have a conversation.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Bob.